Let's check in with Fred Greetham. Orange and Brown Report, kind enough to join us here on the Sam Bourquin Show, AM 1310 WDPN, fresh off of a visit to Carolina. Got to see a little football, got to spend some time with family, and Fred joining us here on this Tuesday afternoon. Mr. Greetham, how are you this afternoon?
Oh, I'm kind of hot, but I'm doing pretty good.
It is. It's 92. It's boiling right now. Now, please tell me that you drove the speed limit to and from wherever you had to go today.
I always do.
All right, good to hear. All right, Fred, I'm having a big problem here. There seems to be a lot of enablers and apologists for Myles Garrett on his reported 7th or maybe 8th citation since he's been with the Browns. Speeding tickets, flipping his Porsche in 2022. A lot of people think I'm just ganging up on Myles, and I'm not. I'm just trying to understand why this is just brushed off. What are your thoughts on when you found out what happened when the news came out and some of the comments that have been made since? Where do you stand there, Fred?
Well, I mean, here's a guy that was about 3 years ago that very close to his life. Burn. When you saw some of the pictures, you wonder how he was able to get out of there alive.
Right.
So you would think that enough would be enough to, cause you to be much more safe behind the wheel. But I don't know. I don't know what makes these guys go. I think Jimmy Haslam, maybe with that 180 acres before they break ground out there, just put a big oval
right.
and let them all go out there and get it out of their system.
I just don't get the flippant attitude of the Browns fans. Oh, Sam, it's just a speeding ticket. We all do it. Who cares? This and that and the other. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just not wired that way. Have the Browns talked to him? Do you know about? Did they talk to him after the Porsche incident? Have they talked to him about the constant speeding tickets? Or they just kind of let this go?
I'm sure they do. They have people in their building that, that instruct them, talk to them. But, I don't know. I mean, you think about Shedeur Sanders less than a month ago had two of these, and here's the guy that you paid $160 million to kind of be the example, even if he isn't a vocal, leader, more of a, lead by example guy. And you wanted that to carry over not only on the field, but also off the field. So, yeah, I'm sure they talked to him, but, when he's in that car and he's wanting to get home, I guess he puts his 270 pound on his foot and gets there quicker, or thinks he'll get there quicker. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of cultural type of thing, that sometimes these guys just think they're invincible, and I understand, he might be able to handle that speed, but any other car swerves or anything happens,
right.
You're not going to get another chance.
Yeah, and driving on 71, I mean, I don't care what time of day it is. I mean, who knows what a deer could run out there in front. I mean, I don't know. It just perplexes me that it's just met with such flippancy within the fan base that this is just okay. I don't get it.
I know it's not DUI, but
right.
They have stiffer things with that. If the reports are true that it's just a $250 fine, you don't have to even show up. I mean, that's like a nickel to you and me.
Right.
So, it's got just have to have maybe some of your personal conduct carries over the NFL, even to speeding and so forth. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, long term, but I know one thing I get tired of talking about off the field,
right.
Domestic abuse,
right.
Speeding, DUIs, and all these things that go with it.
We lead the league in that nonsense. I've had people ask me about how does he even still have a license in the state of Ohio with all these citations. I have no idea. All right, Fred, let's talk about something positive. And I know it was a couple of days ago, but I haven't had a chance to chat with you about it. But you were down in Charlotte, and I'm sure you heard the roars of the crowd. You saw all the Shedeur jerseys in the crowd that night, and a pretty good performance by the young fella against the Panthers. What kind of a grade would you give Shedeur, and What did you like most about his first time under the bright lights?
Well, I think that the moment wasn't too big for him, and I think that's where the advantage of growing up the son of Deion Sanders, he's been in the spotlight his whole life, whether he wanted to be or not, that he was able to, step out there and perform. I saw him take what he had been doing in practice and kind of take it into the game. And I was encouraged. I mean, I thought, listen, I wrote about it Friday before the game. I said, either way, if he goes out and falls flat on his face, it'll be the biggest overreaction that you could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And it could go, if he plays lights out, it will be the other biggest overreaction. So it's somewhere in the middle. He is showing that he has the potential to be the answer at quarterback, but I'm not ready to anoint that, after one preseason game. A lot to like about it. You could see some tendencies that caused him to drop in the draft, that he's working on, but he's getting better. But you definitely saw the accuracy. You saw, decision-making in the game. I mean, the results, it's a results-oriented business. He had 9 drives. He had 3 touchdowns. I mean, that would be a season for the Browns quarterbacks in recent years. So, I think it's a good showing. I'm anxious to see him follow up this week. You're going kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. The Panthers were a team kind of like the Browns last year, but here you got the Super Bowl champions coming up. You'll probably be going up against their backups, but their backups are probably better than what you saw last week. So it will be interesting. And I think it puts a little pressure on Dylan Gabriel, step up and show what he can do.
When I was talking on the show the day or two before, and I was laying out a little plan of like what I was looking for and, getting the guys in and out of the huddle, getting the play called, getting a little rhythm to the offense, watching his facial and body, his language with the coaches, with the other guys on the team, just looking like a pro football team your first time out there. And I didn't care if we won or lost the game or, if he had an 80-yard drive or a 2-yard drive. I just wanted to see like the intangible part. And I was pretty pleased with all that for the most part.
Yeah, the pre-snap and some of the penalties now. When the first team was going against the Panthers in practice, Joe Flacco was kind of upset about it because they were very sloppy. They had false starts and so forth. But the 2s and 3s that played in that game, and I think that was one of the points that they have emphasized with Sanders is the pre-snap and getting everybody in position. He's never had to do that because he's really never, played in that type of a system under center. It's been more, out of the shotgun and hurry up and so forth. And so I think that really bode well for him. And so I'm anxious to, like I said, see him again, see if he can stack another, good performance together. And, when you think, Sam, the Hall of Fame game in Dorian Thompson-Robinson's year, they had the extra game down there and he lit it up and everybody's like, oh boy, they've got something here, in the 5th round. And so we all know, it kind of came down to earth, in a hurry. And so I just think the Browns are doing this right. I've seen it so long.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people want to throw him out there, but you got a guy like Joe Flacco who's been there, done that. You always can turn it over to somebody else, the younger guys, but let's not throw them out there before their time. Give them a chance to grow and develop, and that's what the preseason's about.
100% agree. Fred Greetham is our guest. Orange and Brown Report. Check him out on X at Fred Greetham9, at Fred Greetham9. Also on other social media platforms as well, Facebook and the like. Fred, so they got him listed at 4 on the depth chart, which I thought was, there. You talked about sticking to the plan, and how many times we've seen the plan take a turn for whatever reason, and whatever they started to build short term, middle term, kind of went right out the window. I agree as well. I like how they're handling this situation and not overreacting one way or the other. What are they expecting to see? What are they hoping to see out of Shedeur in the joint practices with Philly this week?
Well, I think, the practices, he'll get some reps. I think Gabriel and him will get reps in 11-on-11s, probably against the 2s and 3s. But they're going to have the chance to play in the game Saturday. I think the whole game will be Gabriel and Sanders,
okay,
and maybe Huntley sprinkled in at the end, because Stefanski has emphasized, just like last week, they look at these two practices. In fact, I think these two practices with the Eagles are probably the apex of training camp because, like I said, you're going with your first team offense against their first team defense and vice versa for 2 days to be able to see where you stack up. I think Nick Sirianni and Kevin Stefanski have a good relationship, and they know what they each want to come out of this practice with, to evaluate and see where they're at. And then the game is just going to be for the, frankly, the second and third guys, kind of like what you saw in the Carolina game. And so I'm going to pay attention to those practices and see, who's out there, who's performing well. And I think the offensive line, this is going to be a chance for them to go against that vaunted Eagles defensive line and to see if they can get a push and get the running game going a little bit, play action pass with Flacco and so forth. So as far as the same thing with Sanders and Gabriel, I expect them, and, when they get their turns, it'll be interesting to see if they give either of them any reps with the first team. To date, Shedeur has not had any 11-on-11 reps with the Browns first team offense. He's had some against the Browns first team defense, but Gabriel has. But it'll be interesting how they handle it in the next 2 days.
I think one of the things I'm looking at too, Fred, is how some of the other rookie class handles these joint practices with Philly. A great organization, a great team, very well coached. They've won Super Bowls. Just the step up from going against Carolina and guys like Schlesinger and Dylan Sampson and those guys. I really want to see how they reacted this week too.
Yeah, I was impressed with Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger. I think they're going to be big additions. I mean, just the little time they were out there, Graham was pushing the pile. He was getting double teamed. I think on the third play of the game, he was being double teamed, and he was pushing the pile. And Schlesinger, so far, has been what he's been billed. He had 6 tackles in the limited time he was in there. And so I think for this, if those two guys can make an impact as rookies, I think this defense has a chance to really be good. They've lost 3 starters before the season started, and Schlesinger can go a long way to ease the blow of losing JOK and Jordan Hicks and Martin Emerson as well. So, yeah, it will be. I think the defense, the secondary concerns me a little bit, because of the lack of depth. But I think if the defensive line, is the engine that Jim Schwartz talks about, they can cover up a multitude of mistakes by having the quarterback on his heels. That helps a lot of people cover if they don't have to cover him as long.
Do you think any of the frontliners will play Saturday, or they're going to just kind of take the same approach they did against Carolina?
Yeah, the frontliners are going to play Wednesday and Thursday. I'd be very surprised. I thought maybe DeJuan Jones would get a little look, the other night, but he didn't. So there was some of those guys, like Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire, guys that maybe aren't entrenched. They're young guys that'll probably be starters or so forth. But for the most part, I think it will be very similar to what you saw in Carolina. A lot of young guys. And frankly, when you have 90 on the roster and only 53 end up on the final, most of the second half will be guys that are playing for jobs and probably won't be here when the final roster is is made.
Fred Greetham is our guest. Orange and Brown Report at Fred Greetham 9 on social media platforms. Fred, I was thinking a couple of days ago, these joint practices seem to be, I don't know, I guess I'll just say, growing in popularity with the teams and organizations and how they get their work in and the environment and just the way that things flow and the work that you can get done. And I just had a crazy thought. Is it crazy for me to think that, I don't know, down the road sometime, and I'm talking maybe 15, 20 years down the road, that's all you're going to have is joint practices? Teams are going to link up 2 or 3 times over the period. There won't be any more preseason games. Is that crazy?
Well, I do think that's the coaches like that because they can control the situations they want to, put people in situations, and obviously, to be frank, why do the star players not play in these games? Because they don't want them to get hurt. They can get hurt in practice, but especially with the quarterbacks, you can, they won't get hit in the Philly joint practices, and you can protect your guys, with that controlled environment. I think the biggest reason you wouldn't do away with the preseason games is money. Because the last time I checked, those preseason games, are part of the season
ticket packages. Yep.
And, the other night, especially after they announced Shedeur was going to start, I mean, there was tickets for preseason games, a couple $100 or more, which usually you could get for $5, as you walk in up there. So, somebody had to pay the full face value to get season tickets because they include the preseason. So, I don't know. They can always figure something out or work something out. But I do think that the joint practices are really what that's really all the teams are doing it now. And it's for that control and getting the work exactly. You get in the game, you can't determine. There might not be a 2-minute situation. There might not be a hurry-up situation. And they can do all that in their practice.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I just noticed a lot more teams are doing it, and there might be a scuffle here and there, but that's okay. Guys are getting hot; it's humid out. They're getting a little antsy with one another, but I do think the work they're getting in is pretty much more important than what they're doing during the actual preseason game. Fred, always appreciate the time. Glad you had a safe trip back from Carolina, and we'll see what happens this Saturday in Philly. We'll call upon you here soon, and we'll continue to talk Browns. I always appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
All right, Sam. Thank you for having me on.
You bet. Fred Greetham, Orange and Brown Report. Check him out at Fred Greetham 9 on X, at Fred Greetham 9.